Up next in the broadcast, the nation mourns at the 5th anniversary of the torpedo attack on the South Korean warship Cheonan. In respect for the 46 sailors who died, President Park calls for step-by-step improvements in inter-Korean relations. South Korea decides to join the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank in a bid to become more involved with development and building projects in the region, but the U.S. may not be too happy with the move. And Korea's latest satellite, the Arirang 3A, successfully makes it into space. The high-resolution capabilities will allow Korea to view any object larger than 50 centimeters in diameter on the Earth's surface. Primetime News begins now. Welcome to Primetime News on this Thursday, March 26th. Coming to you live from Seoul, I'm Sean Lim.
And I'm Kang Chery. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We begin in Daejeon, where a memorial ceremony took place marking the 5th anniversary of North Korea's deadly torpedo attack on the Cheonan, a South Korean warship.
President Park Geun-hye urged the nation to remember the victims' sacrifices and called on North Korea to stop its provocations. Cheonan has our top story.
From a senior chief petty officer who was only 1 month away from his wedding to another officer whose then newborn daughter is now 5 years old. President Park Geun-hye expressed her condolences to the 46 sailors who perished in the attack 5 years ago, as well as a chief warrant officer who lost his life in the recovery mission.
정부는 국가 방위 역량을 더욱 확충하고 굳건한 한미 동맹을 바탕으로 확고한 전쟁 억지력을 확보해 다시는 천안함 피격과 같은 일이 일어나지 않도록 할 것입니다.
While North Korea denies its involvement, a multinational team of experts concluded that a North Korean torpedo caused a corvette to split in half and sink in the West Sea. As this year marks the 70th anniversary of the division of the Koreas, President Park urged the North to stop thinking nuclear arms will provide protection and encouraged its leadership to come out of isolation and seek real security and development. She also stressed that achieving unification in a manner that satisfies South and North Koreans would be a way to ensure that the sacrifices made by the sailors were not in vain.
통일이 내일 당장 오지는 않더라도 미래에 반드시 이루어질 것임을 믿고 지금부터 차근차근 준비를 해 나가야 합니다.
Vowing to ensure the Korean people remember the honorable Navy men, the president promised to crack down on irregularities, specifically referring to the Navy's recent procurement corruption. Cheonan, Arirang News.
Also attending this morning's ceremony were the leaders of Korea's main political parties, along with their political jabs.
Ahead of the event, the parties clashed over the main opposition's past reluctance to officially point the finger at North Korea for the sinking. Our Park Ji-won has the story.
Both party leaders were in Daejeon on Thursday to pay their respects to the 46 South Korean sailors who lost their lives in the Cheonan sinking 5 years ago. Ruling Saenuri Party leader Kim Moo-sung was joined by floor leader Yoo Seung-min and other key members of the party. The main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy's leader Moon Jae-in was also there to mourn the sailors. A day before, the former presidential candidate finally acknowledged the sinking was the result of a North Korean attack.
I warn North Korea that any military threats or provocations that break inter-Korean peace and trust are unacceptable.
Up until now, Moon had not declared a stance on the cause of the sinking. Other liberal politicians had raised doubts about the results of a South Korean-led international investigation that concluded the North torpedoed the Cheonan. They have argued the sinking could have been attributed to other causes, like a submerged rock or a mistaken bombing by a U.S. warship during joint military drills between South Korea and the U.S. The ruling party leader sharply criticized Moon on Thursday, saying the acknowledgement came far too late.
The opposition party needs to apologize to the lost sailors and the people for having opposed the Assembly's adoption of a resolution condemning North Korea 5 years ago.
Political science professor Cheonan from Cheonan University says it is natural that Moon, as a politician, is trying to earn support from a wider spectrum of voters by stressing issues like security that interest most people.
What is problematic is when a politician suddenly changes his or her view regarding an issue entirely. Then he or she needs to clearly state reasons behind such an abrupt change of views. But in the case of Moon, he has kept silent about the issue until now.
Both parties are heading into by-elections late next month and general elections next year. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The Cheonan warship attack was a major blow to the country, but it is the bereaved families of the victims who have suffered the most.
Many still struggle with their grief today. Our Kim Hyun-bin asked how some of them are coping 5 years later.
At 9:22 p.m. on March 26, 2010, a North Korean torpedo slammed into the side of the South Korean warship Cheonan, claiming the lives of 46 out of 104 South Korean sailors on board. The power of the blast split the ship's stern in two as it patrolled near South Korea's western Baekneung-do Island, located just 10 kilometers from the contested maritime border. 5 years have passed, but for the family members of the sailors who died, the pain is still fresh.
I love you, my son. If he was alive, he would be 30. I will come find you. I promise Dad that whoever dies first will come find you in the afterlife, no matter what.
I want to restore everything. I feel guilt for sending him off as a career soldier and for everything I wasn't able to do for him. That I really regret.
Many survivors of the Cheonan tragedy have come back to pay tribute to their fallen comrades, but also to find some peace of mind in their work.
I miss the days when I used to roam the seas with my comrades. We will do everything we can to protect the sea that you died defending.
Thousands of people have been paying tribute to the 46 sailors who perished in the line of duty 5 years ago. It's a solemn day. It also highlights why South Korea needs to maintain the utmost military readiness at all times. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News, Daejeon.
And marking this occasion, South Korea has vowed to get North Korea to answer for the incident when stalled inter-Korean talks resume.
Seoul's Unification Ministry said Thursday it plans to talk to Pyongyang about possible ways to do that, including discussions on the sanctions placed on the regime in the wake of the warship sinking. While North Korea continues to deny its involvement, Washington also lent support to the South Korean government's stance. The U.S. State Department reportedly reaffirmed its backing of an investigative report by international experts that blames North Korea for the incident.
South Korea has announced that it's joining the list of founding members of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Seoul sent word of its decision in a letter to Beijing. Korea was widely anticipated to join along with some 20 other Asian countries and Western members like the UK and France ahead of Tuesday's deadline to submit an application. The focus now is how much of a stake and voting power Korea will try to secure in this Chinese-led development fund. China may chip in as much as $50 billion in initial capital. The top U.S. military officer is in Seoul today for talks with his South Korean counterpart. General Martin Dempsey's trip comes amid heated controversy over the possible deployment of a THAAD missile defense system in South Korea. Hwang Sung-hee reports.
Will the top U.S. military officer address the possible deployment of a controversial U.S. missile defense system in South Korea during his visit to Seoul? U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Martin Dempsey and his counterpart Cheonan will meet on Friday to discuss pending issues, such as responding to North Korean threats. The South Korean military stressed that the deployment of the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Battery, also known as THAAD, is not on the agenda. Although the two allies say there have been no formal discussions, Washington has been pushing the issue, saying THAAD will deter North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. Seoul is more cautious, with its neighbors, namely China and Russia, voicing their opposition. South Korean ambassador to the U.S. An Ho-young on Thursday said the decision will be based on Korea's needs.
As we are doing with the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, we will consider various factors and reach a decision that best serves our national interest at an appropriate time.
North Korea has expressed anger about the proposed defense system, with its foreign ministry warning that the deployment will turn the region into a theater of fierce scramble. In a statement carried by North Korean state media on Thursday, the ministry called it Washington's preparation for a preemptive strike at the north and an attempt to contain China and Russia. Even if the issue of THAAD doesn't come up this time, pundits say speculation will resurface when U.S. Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter visits South Korea early next month. 황성희, Arirang News.
The visiting U.S. Army general also met with President Park Geun-hye at her office, where the Korean leader said winning by deterrence is the best kind of victory. After conferring Dempsey the Order of National Security Merit's highest award, President Park said the Seoul-Washington alliance is the best of its kind in the world, expanding to address global concerns. Dempsey, in his response, said it would also play a vital role in unification matters on the Korean Peninsula. He also delivered regards from President Barack Obama and expressed anticipation for the Korean president's visit to Washington in the near future. Korea's latest satellite is now successfully orbiting the Earth. Officials say the satellite has made its first contact with Korea's ground station. The new satellite will help enable 24-hour monitoring of the Earth's surface, regardless of weather conditions. Our Kim Min-ji tells us more.
The Korea Aerospace Research Institute confirmed that the Korea Multipurpose Satellite 3A established radio contact with Korea's ground station Thursday afternoon. It made 2 previous radio communications, and all of its solar panels have been deployed to generate power. The satellite, also known as Arirang 3A, was launched just past 7 a.m. Korea time from Russia's Yasny launch base. It was sent into space on the Deneb, a Russian launch vehicle converted from a Soviet-era intercontinental ballistic missile. The launch comes as Korea is aiming to make inroads into the global space industry. Satellite development around the world is ramping up, and Korea plans to develop its own launch vehicle for testing by 2019. Korean officials hope the Arirang 3A will boost the country's ability to monitor the Earth's surface and complement the nation's 3 other multi-purpose satellites currently in space.
Until now, satellite development was led by the government, but this time private companies put a lot of effort into the making of the Arirang 3. We see this as a big opportunity for Korea to develop further in this area.
The 1,100-ton satellite has the most powerful optical lens of any Korean satellite yet. It will be able to provide clear images of any object larger than 50 centimeters in diameter on the Earth's surface. It's also equipped with an infrared sensor that can monitor volcanic movements or forest fires. The Arirang 3A will circle the Earth 15 times a day for the next 4 years. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
It appears the government's aggressive stimulus measures and central bank rate cuts are not bearing fruit just yet. Korea's consumer confidence continues to remain sluggish, with no signs that inflation will meet the Bank of Korea's target zone. Hwang Ji-ae has details.
Korean consumers' inflation expectations for the next 1 year came in at a record low of 2.5%. It also marked a 0.1 percentage point drop from a month ago, as policymakers see expected inflation as a window into future inflation. Forecasts are growing that the central bank is going to fall short of its inflation target band of 2.5% to 3.5%. The slumping expectations for prices to increase come after the central bank cut its key rate 3 times over the last 8 months as a means to prop up ailing domestic consumption and revitalize the economy. And despite such efforts, there are no signs of improving consumer sentiment either. Consumer sentiment has been on an upward trend this year, but that came to an early end in March. The Bank of Korea's Consumer Sentiment Index came in at 101 this month, down 2 points from February. The central bank attributes the drop to the sluggish pace of recovery and the weakening prospects of income from interest due to the record low key rate of 1.75%. A reading above 100 means optimists outnumber pessimists. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
President Park has sanctioned a controversial anti-corruption bill. With the president's approval, the law will be proclaimed on Friday and enforced starting September 28th of next year, giving it an 18-month grace period. Under the bill, public servants, members of the media, and private educational institutions will face criminal punishment if they or their spouses are found to have accepted $890 or more in money or gifts from a person, regardless of whether it was in exchange for favors or it was work-related. Critics of the bill say it could violate a person's constitutional rights and infringe on freedom of the press and rights to equality. This year marks the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule. To remember the efforts made to win back the country's sovereignty, 2 musicians are reenacting a traditional song close to the hearts of Koreans. Our cultural correspondent Kim Ji-yeon has this report.
This traditional Korean folk song called Monggumpo Taryong expresses the hopes and dreams of lovers who await to be reunited. It's being sung at the very palace where it was originally performed for Korea's Emperor Kim Kojong during the late 19th century.
We decided to play Monggumpo Taryong because it's one of the most representative traditional folk songs beloved by Koreans. It's an honor to be able to play this song in this palace. I feel a sense of pride and I'm touched to be in a place that symbolizes modern Korean history.
The Deoksugung Seokjojeon Palace stands out from other historical structures in Korea. Kim Kojong commissioned British engineer John Harding to build his empire's first Western-style building with elements of neoclassical architecture in mind. After it was completed in 1910, the king often escaped there to stay grounded in times of emotional hardship and crisis.
With the death of his queen, King Kojong returned to this Deoksugung Seokjojeon Palace with a plan to establish a new political system to secure national sovereignty from rising foreign imperialistic powers.
As part of efforts to reinvent the country and secure sovereignty against Japanese colonization in the early 1900s, Kim Kojong renamed his empire Daehan, and to this day, the country is commonly referred to as Daehanmin국 in Korean. To mark the 70th anniversary of the country's liberation from Japanese colonization, songs representing Korea's past and present will be performed every last Wednesday each month until August. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Air safety investigators have begun analyzing black box data from the German airliner that crashed in the French Alps. Recovery operations at the crash site have resumed to secure more clues.
With more, we turn to Paul Yi at the News Center. Paul, shocking details have emerged about the final moments of the flight. Fill us in.
Well, media reports have been citing sources close to the ongoing investigation. They say evidence suggests that one of the 2 pilots on Germanwings Flight 9525 was locked out of the cockpit. Now, this was just before the plane went down, killing all 150 people on board. According to the New York Times, in one of the recovered audio recordings, you can hear one pilot lightly knocking, then hitting the cockpit door more aggressively, trying to smash it down. Lufthansa, the parent airline of Germanwings, has not confirmed the claim. And in the latest update, in just the last hour, the lead French prosecutor on the case, Bryce Robin, has said the co-pilot at the controls appeared to show what he described as a desire to destroy the aircraft. He added, however, the suspected pilot did not have any known ties to terrorism or extremists. Search teams are still trying to find the second black box, as only the casing, not the flight data recorder device itself, has been recovered. And shifting now to Vietnam, an industrial disaster has hit the Southeast Asian country, leaving 13 dead and dozens more injured, many in critical condition. Officials say the accident occurred late Wednesday when a major scaffolding section collapsed at a steel plant in the coastal province of Ha Tinh. According to state-run media, all the victims were Vietnamese and part of a team building a concrete seawall. The construction project has been linked to the local arm of Samsung C&T. The company reportedly promised to cooperate with the investigation and offered an initial compensation of $1,400 to the families of the victims. Prime Minister Nguyen Thanh Dung has called on authorities to determine the cause of the accident and deal with it in a, quote, serious manner. And switching gears now to the tech industry, Facebook is taking another giant step towards monetizing its global service, this time by turning its millions of users into consumers. Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg made the announcement on Wednesday in San Francisco. Speaking at his company's annual developers conference, he introduced a new software platform via its mobile messaging application. It will enable businesses to offer online shopping payments and social media networks, among other services. Zuckerberg said that nearly half of Facebook's 1.4 billion users also use its Messenger app, which would represent one of the biggest online marketplaces in the world. And that wraps up our look at international stories for now. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Che with the Sports Brief. Starting with the KBL playoff semifinals, the Mobis Phoebus and LG Sakers met in Ulsan for the deciding Game 5 with a berth to the championship series on the line. LG started off well but fell into a devastating funk in the second quarter, giving Mobis a 9-point lead by the half. And Mobis took control, snuffing out any scoring runs by LG in the final 2 periods to take home the win. With that, the defending champs are headed to the KBL Finals for a chance at their 3rd championship trophy in a row. Over to tennis, Korean teenager Jung Hyun earned his first victory on the ATP World Tour at the Miami Open, writing a new chapter for Korean tennis. Chung, ranked 121st and 71 spots below opponent Marcel Granollers, upset the Spaniard 6-love, 4-6, and 6-4 to become the first Korean in 6.5 years to win a match at the highest level of the sport. But there's little time to celebrate as he'll face a much tougher opponent, world number 9 Tomas Berdych, in the next round. Meanwhile, golfers of Korean heritage who've won at all 6 LPGA Tour stops this season will look to make it 7 straight at the Kia Classic starting Thursday. Korean-born pros like Lydia Ko, Park In-bi, Kim Hyo-ju, and others are more than capable of extending the run, but you can't discount the wind-starved field, including Stacey Lewis and defending champion Anna Nordqvist. Beyond that, though, the Kia Classic offers a final tune-up opportunity for golfers before the first major of the year next week. Finally, domestic football leagues are on break and players are showing off their national colors this week as international fixtures kicked off across the globe. World number 1 Germany and Asian Cup champions Australia drew 2-2 in their friendly as headliners on opening day of International Week. Along with the friendlies, the European Championship qualifiers will continue on from Friday as well. As for upcoming matches of interest, France hosts Brazil on Friday at 5 a.m. Korea time, and later in the evening at 8 p.m., South Korea takes on Uzbekistan in Daejeon. That's all I have for now. Your weather's up next. Good night.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kim Bo-kyung with your weather outlook. Spring-like conditions continue today under clear skies, but it's getting drier by the day and humidity levels still remain very low in most parts of the country. Light showers are in store for Sunday, but it won't be enough to turn around the dry conditions. Be careful on the roads during your morning commute, as those in the inland areas could wake up to foggy conditions. Other than that, Friday is shaping up to be a warm day, but keep in mind that there will be over a 10-degree gap in numbers from day to night. On to Friday's readings. Seoul and Busan reach a high of 17. Daegu and Gwangju hit the low 20s. Moving on to other places, Jeju peaks at 15. Dokdo hits 13. Mount Kumgang hits 8. That'll do it for now. I'll be back with more in just about 2 hours.
And that's Primetime News for this Thursday. I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for watching.
And I'm Kang Chery. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you again soon.